welcome everybody. This is Louis Hahn with the Arcview Group. Thank you so much for joining us today. And our continuation of Arcview's Town Hall series, where we explore opportunities and needs in specific cannabis markets around the United States in an engaging format where members of the community will be asking their questions to our panel of experts. My name is Louis. I'm VP here at the Arcview Group, and we've got a great panel for you today. Before we jump in though, I want to set some context about the conversation that we're about to have. So the state of Arizona has deployed its adult use cannabis market faster than most other states, launching their market less than 3 months after voters approved adult use legalization in November. Sales started just last week, and reports from dispensaries show that initial adult use sales were 2 to 3 times the value of their usual medical cannabis sales, with a heavy majority of these sales, 87%, being comprised of flower and vape sales. 95 of the state's 130 current licensees were approved for recreational sales as of January 29th. On the federal level, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and several other Democratic senators said this past Monday that they will push to pass sweeping legislation to end federal prohibition on cannabis with prioritization on restorative justice. And just yesterday, President Biden's nominee to head the U.S. Small Business Administration committed during a Senate hearing to examine cannabis businesses' inability to receive aid that is available to companies in other industries. This would open a new door to capital that didn't exist before for niche and craft operators in the cannabis space. We know this is what the people want. A Gallup poll in November showed that 68% approved of cannabis, and all 5 states with November ballot measures for cannabis reform all passed, including, of course, Arizona, bringing the total to 15 states and the District of Columbia that have legalized cannabis for adult use, and 36 states with permitted medical use. So very much looking forward to hearing about how Arizona specifically has launched their adult use cannabis market and what the opportunities are there. But first, we'll hear a word from our sponsor, Holo Extracts, with Gary Mesh, and VP of Business Development here at Arcview, Jake Kuzarek. Jake and Gary, over to you.
Well, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us today. I know our audience would love to hear this in your own words, but please give us the full rundown on Palo Verde Global, Holo Extracts, Endo Farms, and everything else you're working on these days.
Okay, so Endo Farms is our operating company in Arizona. And it's the same company that Alfred Hermes, who's on the screen here below, has as a consulting business that we folded into the company when we started to build a company. The company Palo Verde Global is our holding company. And under that's Endo Farms, which is the operating company. And Endo Farms has developed Holo brand that we introduced in the second quarter last year, and is rolling out pretty well, and seems to be having a very good start in the market with very good timing, despite a horrible year for anyone to try to launch a new business, have new employees, and get things done. But it worked out, and that's thanks to Alfred's great work on the product people like, and other parties who are involved in here. So just quickly, kind of understand what that is. I'm from a different industry entirely, satellite communications, telecoms, data networks, and all that, and had a big history in there. Also started and was head of an infectious disease diagnostic company, and worked with the FDA for 9 years, and some of the biggest operators, hospitals and other things for problems there, manufactured testing equipment for infectious diseases. But I had experience with the FDA and a lot of regulated markets, and also that market. And another of our founders, Steve, is from Big Brand in the food and nutritional industries. And we came up with the idea after Alfred approached me about building his dream, which was to create his own company, as opposed to building facilities and designing and teaching people how to operate and make cannabis products around the world for other people. We focused on building our own company down here, and the start ended up being the Holo brand, which you can see here. And the original idea was to build a couple cultivations and do the extraction first, but we couldn't pull off the financing, 18 months ago, in kind of a bad spot for financing cannabis. So we built Holo up to prove that concept, and now we're working on 2 cultivation plans in Arizona. And that's an area we could look for partners and help and financing, et cetera. So Steve from the food business said, I think we should build global brands because there's a big upside in value if you can do it correctly, and there'll be a lot of value in real brands, not just names and funny boxes, but real brands that have a complete holistic care around them for protecting the brand, making sure it's consistent in quality, but also so that our partners, the stores, have a great partner that they are very confident about and can rely on. One of the key things that we worked on was testing. So we decided with Steve's leadership in the food industry, he said, let's start at the normalization level with pharma level quality labs, with food industry, attention to detail, and a real consumer packaged goods company. He said, for example, at Quaker Oats, where he ran a lot of brands, he said you could eat off the floor in any place in the factory, not because it was regulation, but because we cared about our brand and our product, and we couldn't ever, reduce our standards in any way or attention to detail. And so it starts from that point. So we put in pharma level labs, people like Alfred, who knew and worked as a tremendous expert in the business, but also a perfectionist in equipment and technology and the processing. And so we combined those things into a real brand that not only was tested from the very start in the last year. Every single product was tested, but we led the market in having a product that the customer can walk up on the shelves and with their phone, they can scan our box and it tells them the exact testing for that batch. So we didn't hide from testing. We started testing, paid the price, learned all about it, had standards, had a PhD, friend from Amsterdam who's PhD in cannabis product development, probably the first one, helped us with getting testing standards and those things. So we feel we've proven the concept with Holo because we're in 5-figure shipments per month now, and in an amazing growth in the market here. Of course, the opportunity with the market opening up, it makes it even better. So our job one is just to continue to expand Holo with some additions into this market, and let the market get bigger, and also add the supply chain protection and flower products by putting in 2 different cultivations under Alfred's guidance, who's done this quite a few times before.
Wow. The commitment to quality, Alfred, who's certainly been around the block a couple times, and obviously yourself at the helm, somebody who founded and ran a $1.5 billion company, raised billions in the US and Europe, acquired many companies, executed many IPOs. I mean, it's a rare mix, and we're happy to have people like you in this industry. Now tell us, how can the Arcview network assist with your growth? Who would be an ideal partner, financial, retail, or otherwise?
Well, as you know, you already have, because you've connected with us, and one of the Arcview groups is trying to get us to work with them on financing. It's one of the ones that we're talking to, and the other connections would be on new products. We're always, we still think a lot of things are Me Too. A lot of people have extracts and things. As time goes on, they'll develop further. We want to take our expertise and add it to other people's smarts to create other products from the oils we make and with the systems we have here in Arizona. And there's an unlimited opportunity there. So we need to connect more and look, we're heads down right now, but we need to bring people in and have people that bring us new ideas we can start working on as well. So that's another area that would be helpful.
Excellent. And word on the street is that your team has some links to Amsterdam. How has that cannabis capital been instrumental for bringing your team together?
Well, it's an interesting story. I'll try to keep it short here, but Alfred and I came from different, environments. I lived and worked in Amsterdam for 12 years, right? And so when I came back to the U.S., friends said, "Hey, this cannabis market is opening up, and you must know all about it because you lived in Amsterdam." And I said, I had thousands of employees there in telecoms. I did not have myself in the coffee shops other than for my own consumption and entertaining friends and things like that. But obviously I saw the effect, and I saw that the way they handled it was fantastic, in that it's not a crime there. They've softened the rules, and people are treated as patients and not criminals. And the crime rate's low. Never even tested our own employees, because it's just not an issue. If they either perform or they don't. Very benign society there. We had a World Cup there with no violence, which was amazing due to cannabis opportunity there. So I didn't think too much about Amsterdam, except that I had had a history there, but I also have a partner who's a regulatory attorney and follows all the work that's going on in the Netherlands. And as Alfred and I got together to work on this plan, I got a call from my partner and co-founder, Mark, that said, hey, they're going to have the first cannabis convention for capital in the Netherlands. And here we have $4 billion of sales of cannabis. And all of these coffee shops have to buy it illegally and sell it legally, a bizarre thing. And now they're going to open up 10 cultivation licenses, and they're going to have a capital convention here. So I said, Alfred, let's just go over. Now, little did I know, Alfred has studied there, and he had friends there as well. So the combination of my friends there and his friends turned out to be amazing. He knew coffee shop owners, and next thing we knew, he had consultant jobs in Portugal. We had executives from Swiss licensees flying into Arizona to talk to us about partnering with them. We had 3 offers from licensees to join in, bring our technology, bring our design experience. They know how to grow things there, but they don't really use their fantastic greenhouses for growing cannabis yet, because it's illegal to do that in the country. So we ended up finding not only Amsterdam's a fantastic, wonderful place to be, and there's a lot of smiles that come from getting together there. It turned out that all these connections seemed to gel when we were in Amsterdam, and today we are still being chased and asked to come and provide technical consulting, help, financing, and partnership in developing that market with U.S. style products, as opposed to just basically simply flower-based products and instead of concentrates, just not done there yet. So that was the opportunity that Alfred and I were smiling about, is how amazing this product and this market is, and how no matter where you go, it's a small community of expertise and friends, and everybody needs some help to figure out with different connections to make a real opportunity.
Excellent. And federal legalization is on everyone's mind these days. How do you anticipate this will impact the market, and are you planning for the shift already?
Well, we started with that in mind because, as I said, my partner Steve said, this is a time to get in because we know where it's going to go from being FDA type compliant. And we had people who were actually on the FDA panel planning for the regulation of cannabis. And we saw what they were planning to do. And it's the same thing we saw in the medical device business. Full records of all activities you do, all the way from the source of things in China, and amazing, requirements for compliance and discipline. And so we started with that as our concept. So we feel like a little bit ready, but what I fear is just the shakeup of regulatory domains, because you don't know what that is, what it's going to look like, because as we all learn, if you've been in regulated industries, that these things happen not for the reasons that you think they will. They happen for some other reason and end up being backwards sometimes and interfering with it. So that there's fear there, but we kind of welcome the opportunity to be ready for the market.
All right. Well, what separates you from the rest of the pack? What's the big takeaway, the one core message you'd like to leave our audience with?
And sorry, don't mean to interrupt, but this will unfortunately have to be our last question. We'd love to hear more about what Holo's doing, but just running a little bit low on time here. So thank you.
In concept, it's to have a brand that starts with how we treat the customer who's the store, to make their life extremely easy and give them a product that they know they can direct people to. So for example, one of the things is if you're interested in new products, Mr. Customer that comes in, Mr. Adult, Mr. and Mrs. Adult. If you come in and you're concerned about quality and purity and those things, these people over here, feature testing, we can actually go look at their test results. They've been testing for a year now, and other people just started and are having a problem with it. They've been testing all their products for a year. We can just show you with your phone the whole testing and all the testing that's on there for heavy metals and microbials and pesticides and things like that. So that gives the store comfort that these people are going to be a friend, and we're not going to have a problem with them with their products being tested or any corner cutting or other things, shenanigans with the testing. So that gives them a comfort, and then we provide them with training and materials, real experts. Alfred comes in and actually trains people and explains to the detail that the bud tenders really like to hear, that kind of detail, how things are, why they're that way, why it's that color, why it's that smell, things like that. So we start that way and then make the product. Alfred makes a great product, and we tried to make it accessible and easy for people to understand, to look at, and to engage and try out. And that's worked good. And as I said, what we really want is repeat customers. So that's rolling out really well now.
Excellent. Well, Gary, best way to get in touch with you. Want to make sure we can find you later.
Well, you can go to endofarms.com and find us. You can go to Palo Verde Global, Gary at paloverdeglobal.com or Alfred paloverdeglobal.com. That gets to us.
Awesome.
You can also go to holo.co. And I think we have some connection information as well as product information there.
We'll check it out.
We can always ask Dimitri down here, because Dimitri knows and connects everybody in the market.
Well, Gary, I can't thank you enough for sponsoring today. We're excited to hear what Alfred's going to be saying in this discussion. And for everybody else, check out Endo, check out Holo, check out Palo Verde Global, especially if you're in Arizona. All right. Thanks again, Gary.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Back over to Lewis.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Gary and Jake. Now let's start our discussion on the opportunities and needs of Arizona's legal cannabis market. We've called this a town hall for a reason, because we're going to hear questions asked live to our panel of experts. So let's get our panel of experts on board. I'd like if everyone who's on the responding side can turn on their cameras and mics here. And if you could just briefly introduce yourselves. Starting down my list here, why don't we start with Laura, then Dimitri, then Susan, and then we'll go on from there.
Hey, you want me to go first?
And thanks.
Oh, sorry, Susan.
Or Laura, go ahead first, and then Dimitri, you can go after.
Sure, Dimitri. Laura Bianchi. I'm a partner with Bianchi and Brandt. We are a law firm located in Arizona. We full-scale business and litigation within expertise in cannabis. I actually started with Ryan Hurley, one of our panelists here, way back when, I think in 2010. And we certainly help with every area of the industry, whether it's mergers and acquisitions, expansions, application. We serve as general counsel for companies throughout the U.S. And I certainly appreciate everyone having me today and look forward to speaking with you all.
Shall I go?
Go ahead, Dimitri.
Sorry, I'm used to hosting these. Dimitri Downing, I've been in the industry since 2012, been involved in many different aspects of it, dispensaries, cultivations, etc. 2015, started META. It's a trade organization to help business development, networking, opportunities, education, etc., community, politicians, investors, new members. I've been consulting in the industry since. You can check us out at www.mita-az.org. And thank you, Arcview, for having me here.
Thank you. And Susan.
Hello, my name is Susan Huang. I'm the CEO and a Class A board member license holder of Jamestown Center, Inc., where we have multiple business licenses for recreational and medical dispensaries here in Arizona, cultivation sites, extraction facilities, and infusion kitchens. I'm very excited to share that I have the newest concept called Best Dispensary. We have a flagship store in Mesa, Arizona, and currently developing new facilities in Yuma, Arizona, as we're the only licensed dispensary in Yuma. So look forward to sharing, my own experience and knowledge that I've gained, and happy to answer any questions that you may have. So please check me out and check out Best Dispensary. And thank you for having us.
Thank you, Susan. Now let's have Ryan, Sam, and then Dustin introduce yourselves.
Thank you. Ryan Hurley. I am general counsel with Copper State Farms. We're a vertically integrated cannabis company here in Arizona. We operate a 40-acre greenhouse with manufacturing and kitchen facility in a small town called Snowflake, Arizona. And we operate 4 retail dispensaries in the greater Phoenix area under the Soulflower brand name. as Laura mentioned, I've been a cannabis attorney for about 10 years. Laura and I were partners at a previous law firm, and I've been around here since the beginning and pretty familiar with Arizona's regulations and all the players here. So looking forward to answering everybody's questions and happy to be of assistance.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam Richard, and I am lucky and honored to be the Executive Director of the Arizona Dispensaries Association. We've been in existence since the beginning of the program here in Arizona back in 2010, and grateful to be standing on the shoulders of many giants who served in this role before me. And Ryan and others involved in today's conversations have also been very involved in the association. Ryan specifically as a former board member of the association. So grateful to talk about our work specifically in protecting and advancing the regulated cannabis ecosystem in Arizona, and many, many more topics. Great to be here.
Thank you, Sam. Dustin?
Hey guys, Dustin Johnson. I'm the founder of Monarch. We were the first dispensary in Scottsdale, Arizona back in 2013. Had a vertically integrated operation that we sold to MedMen in 2018. Also the co-founder of Huxton. Product line launched out of Arizona. We're currently for sale in Arizona, Washington, Nevada, and just about to launch here in Oregon, which is where I'm coming to you from outside on a very chilly day. So I'm hoping to keep my hands warm out here. Thanks for having me.
Well, we got gloves. Thank you, Dustin. And last but not least, Alfred Hermes. Could you introduce yourself too?
Hey guys, my name is Alfred Hermes. I'm the Chief Science Officer and co-founder of Palo Verde Global, Endo Farms, and Holo Extracts, our first brand to market here in AZ. And like I say, I'm the resident cannabis nerd of Endo Farms and Holo. So ask away if you have any specific questions, but I won't nerd out too much for you guys.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for jumping on this call. Let's get into the questions. So we're going to cover 4 topics today, all from people who have registered, the hundreds of people who have registered for this call. And we chose the top topics to ask about here. Our panelists will chime in if they have thoughts on each of these questions. So let's start with the first one. Now, I know I said that we would be bringing on people live to ask these questions, but the person that we picked to ask this specific one unfortunately couldn't make it, so I'll be representing their voice. So let's talk about, how do current and out-of-state operators enter into the recreational Arizona cannabis market? Can any of you comment on costs, timelines, and other important things to consider as part of this overall licensing process?
I'll say
sure.
something. Go ahead, Dustin.
Okay, I'll be brief. I think the current operators, about 126 or so, are able to automatically convert procedurally. And Susan will probably have a little bit more info on that too, but just through some applications of Department of Health Services, they automatically get to convert to recreational shops and cultivation for most folks already.
Alfred, do you have something to add there?
And I'm happy to, I don't interrupt anybody, sorry.
Oh, go Laura.
Sure. So I think as of yesterday, actually, DHS had issued 104 of the dual licenses, and it's a pretty streamlined process. This early applicant phase began January 19th, and it actually runs until March 9th. And during that time, current medical marijuana license holders have the ability, as long as they're in good standing, to apply as a dual license holder. And so it was certainly a mad dash to get these rules and regulations put together. We approved this, just in November, and we were ready to go by January 19th. So a lot of it is certainly still evolving. There's also a certain amount of licenses available for certain remote counties that have 1 or less operating dispensaries. Those will be available more so to the public, because most of the early applicant process is for medical marijuana license holders. And this is maybe sort of the easy answer in the room, but we've obviously seen a huge explosion in Arizona. And so I always tell people, look, if you're not already in this industry, of course there's acquisition of licenses, there's applying for licenses, but there's also just looking around and thinking, what's my profession and what do I bring to the table and what's my actual expertise? Because this industry is growing at such a fast pace, and there is still a huge need for professionals of all types, and they need the same kind of business services that any other business would need. And so, I always tell people, be creative if you don't have the ability to apply for or acquire a license in Arizona.
Yeah, I'll also add to that you know, Arizona doesn't have the same type of regulations that some other states have, where it's really strict to be able to partner with another business. So if you have a brand or if you have a product that's unique and you want to launch it in the Arizona market, you can partner with an existing licensee contractually and operate in one of their locations. And the Arizona law is pretty flexible in that you can have both a medical grow and a recreational grow, and you can have a separate recreational manufacturing site or a kitchen site. So there's a number of different ways to skin that cat, and you can get an Arizona attorney like Laura, and she'll help you draft the contracts needed. And we're always looking for exciting brands and exciting products to bring in under the Copper State banner. So that's an opportunity as well.
Louis, if I could just go real quickly, and those are all been covered really well, and we're going to talk about social equity licenses later. But given the fact that the existing license holders have available to them 126 plus manufacturing sites, 126 plus unused adult use cultivation sites, and then a number of medicinal cultivation sites, and the fact that there's mixed inventory, subleasing those operations will be the name of the game in 2021, 2022. And from what I've seen is a number of organizations are getting very active in that, and they're seeking and reaching out and trying to get the best cultivators and best manufacturers from other states to come in under their umbrella. So it's sort of like a competition. If also, the second thing, I always like to say this, I have a standing check for $15 million if anybody wants to sell a dispensary license. So.
Too low.
Too low again.
Yeah, right.
See?
See?
Truth.
And I agree with what everyone said. The thing I would add to that, kind of to segue off what Laura said, is that, and I've said this in podcasts and, a lot of, anytime I have a chance, is a lot of the products and professions in the cannabis industry are waiting to be basically adapted or hybridized for cannabis. There's, like Laura said, tons of people who are professionals, who are, skilled at something specifically, whether it's a product-based thing that they have, and let's say they're a great baker or a great, whatever you want to call it. There's also all the services and just a whole plethora of things that I think can be added and layered onto the cannabis industry. So I tell people to, like Laura said, if you have something that you're passionate about, people are into makeup, people are into, lipstick, people are into, sports. There's going to be so many different product categories that are going to come out that are going to be specific to markets, specific to certain consumer bases. So it's going to really get niche to the 10th degree here soon. So I always tell people, hey, if you're into something, if you're passionate about something, there's probably a cannabis opportunity there. And then the other side of it is, like Dimitri said, tons of licenses. If people want to fork the bill and work under a license or with a license, that's definitely an opportunity. Those are usually come to, you pay to play in that arena. We've learned it painfully, as a lot of people probably on here have. If you don't have the license, you're paying to use the rights or to work under that license, whatever the framework is there. So there's a lot of opportunities, I think, for people in those two areas. Big groups or people with some heavy financing behind them, I think, can get into some of those relationships, those JVs. Like Dimitri said, some people will just have the opportunity due to skill sets they have. They're the best grower in California. That might open opportunities. So I think there's a few different levels for people to come in, but it's getting tight. Barrier of entries are getting higher due to cost prohibitive. And, at the end of the day, a lot of these licenses and license holders have plans for them. Like Dimitri said, they're already planning on leasing them. They have those amounts set. So it's going to be a race to the market. And, it's going to be, timing is everything with this right now, for sure.
I'm passionate
Everyone
about.
shared very good insights, but one comment I wanted to make is that as a license holder, leasing out your license or creating that co-working spaces to bring other brands are very strategic and mindful. But I've been in the industry since 2010, and when I first started, there was not much funding available. So I actually did a lot of leasing out licenses and bringing other brands under my licenses. let me just be vague but very clear. It hasn't been the most perfect thing. There are challenges because as a license holder, when you do bring these entities under you, these facilities and individuals potentially can become liabilities, not always, following the contract. So yes, it's an option to leverage other people's licenses to get into the market. But as the businesses are developing, and now we're not just talking about medical cannabis, but we're talking about recreational sales. So then what my company, we're looking for is that, do you have product liability insurance? Do you have funding to actually put money aside in escrow? So if there is an IRS audit or tax liabilities, can you cover that? Can you name my licenses and my other properties and assets as an additional insurer to protect that? So yes, there are many ways to get into it, but I think industry leaders and license holders have gone through many different scenarios and went through the hoops to secure these licenses and businesses. I think it will now fall on a lot of the protection and liabilities. And of course, if your group has ability to produce good quality products, then it will be easier for you to get in. But I definitely echo with everyone. There are ways, you just have to find it, but it won't be as seamless as it used to be before because of the limited amount of licenses. And now there are few companies are controlling these licenses. And again, I'm sharing that I'm one of the very few independent license holders here, haven't gone through the mergers and acquisition, and no other MSOs that are applying to our case. But there are always ways. There's always will be a ways, or there's a will.
Yeah, if I met Luis real quickly, there's leasing, there's subleasing, and then there's subleasing and subleasing. There's an individual building like a 1 million square foot facility and it's planning to bring on in every brand under the earth into 5,000 square foot pods. That's his vision. That's his strategy. We'll see if he executes, but people are going to be executing at different levels. And so that's an opportunity to bring your brand in. You just got to find the right partner. And Susan, your commitment to the regulatory structure is noted. If my mom was here, she'd say, "Why aren't you dating Susan in your business opportunities?" You're good.
Any final thoughts? No, thank you, everybody. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next one?
I mean, I would absolutely agree with Susan there, to do this correctly, right? And I'm sure Ryan and we've all been through this, and we've seen the messes that are created because people are running to the roar and they want to get together and they want the money and they want the brands and they want everybody, has to do something now. And I understand that fever, but it is essential that you do it correctly. We are a vertically integrated licensing process here. There's risk for both the management companies or those individuals bringing something in, and there's a lot of risk for the license holders as well. And so it really, really is very important that you sit down. These are joint ventures. You have to be able to work together and make sure that you have given both sides sort of the protections, the security, the transparency. Those are the relationships that work the best and don't wind up in court so that then, it all starts to tumble downhill. So that would be I know as the lawyer, it's the boring thing to say, but if you do it right from the beginning, everybody's successful as opposed to being in fights. And then you go to litigation and they're just a bad time.
Yeah, and I will also echo that and make sure you're being realistic about your expectations because it is somebody else's license on the line and not yours. And I will also add that, getting involved in local organizations like the Dispensary Association and META and the local people in NCIA, those are all great ways to meet people, to network, to find out who you're going to be able to work with effectively.
Thanks so much, everybody. Next question. Let's invite Lise Rossman to ask this one. Lise, over to you.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Lise Rossman with 7 Cities Group, and we work with underrepresented entrepreneurs from around the country to pursue competitive licenses and then open their facilities. So, of course, my question has to do with social equity and the way that program will roll out potentially in the state. So I'm looking for information for folks that think that the social equity component of this would be a good opportunity to break into a new market. What do they need to be thinking about coming in a little late? And also, what are the sort of shared expectations or goals among the panelists when it comes to that program and what they're expecting to see happen?
So I'm happy to answer.
Go ahead, Laura.
Sorry, I'll give the boring. You're not late to the party at all. The social equity program is something that absolutely still needs to be built out. the information we have so far is obviously there is a program that will be built to serve those communities that have been disproportionately affected by marijuana criminalization. So that's a pretty broad definition. And so this absolutely is the time frame to get involved in not only, putting your groups together, figuring out what you bring to the table, figuring out your capital, but also working with DHS and starting to send comments, starting to send advice, talking to local groups, working with groups like Arizona Dispensary Association and MEDA. And really, the more that we band together on this, the more that our voice becomes stronger and we can actually develop a program that, to me, accomplishes what the original goal was. A lot of states have done this and have had some difficulties and have been sued, and there's sort of a lot of constitutional issues that we have to look at. But I think if we can learn from some of the other mistakes and actually thoughtfully put this together in a way that builds a program that actually benefits these individuals and gives them opportunities and adds to a booming industry in Arizona already, it's a positive for everyone. So you're definitely still at the beginning, and we likely won't see this until probably this summer, maybe even a little bit later. DHS has some time to actually develop these rules.
Yeah, thank you for sharing those information, Laura. I've been getting a lot of inquiries and conversations, discussions involving social equity. And just like Laura said, it is ultimately up to the Arizona Department of Health Services, and the rules have not been drafted nor finalized yet. So no one really knows. And it's very difficult and challenging when you're working with something that's not tangible nor have not been decided. But it is my speculation that more than likely they'll probably review other social equity programs in other states. Me personally, I went for multiple social equity in California, and half of them went successful, but half of them, I didn't get it. So, but of course, I had to partner up with a social equity applicant. And even in Illinois too, I applied for 10 and partner up with the social equity partners. However, got 0. So again, when it comes to these licenses and social equity, nothing is guaranteed, but you have to be mindful, what's your investment? How much time are you putting in? And also, I've seen many applicants and people, because they are very eager to secure the licenses, partnerships and joint ventures are good too. But like I said, I can only speak for myself, but not all money is good money. So if you have all the qualification, but you don't have the money, well, be mindful who you're getting into the bed with, right? Because now you're partners, now you're conjoined with a contract, and you can't just take off and leave. So again, there are opportunities out there, and I know you all want licenses, but be careful who you sell your soul to, who you partner with, because you may get what you want, but are you going to have these litigations? Are you going to have contract disputes? How is this going to be dissolving? How is it going to work out? So all the fine lines have to be, ironed out. And I understand motivation. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. So, when I see deals, opportunities, it makes me want to just commit. But I would like to put all these thoughts in all your head. Ryan and Laura, they're not my attorneys, but I have 6 other firms I work with, from Quarles and Brady for zoning to litigation, Snell Wilmer, and McCarthy Law for personal. But have attorneys involved. Spend that money up front. And also, it's not just your investors or person who's bringing the capital, working capital to support you, but who are they as persons? And what are you really agreeing to? And once all parties agree, you must get attorneys involved to put them in a solid contract. But even solid contracts, I've seen in dispute and arbitration litigation where things are decided by the third party. So know your risk before you commit. That's what I wanted to share. But there are many predatory partners that are looking to take advantage of social equity applicants. So I wanted to share, as a very few woman and minority woman in this business, especially in Arizona, I'll be out there to look out. So if you're interested in being a social equity applicant, but you have questions about contract, how to get involved, and if you have questions about vetting out your investors or structuring your corporation, I'll be happy to share. And again, not on a dime or promoting my company, but as a person and individual who's advocating for minority and woman entrepreneurship. And that's why I got involved with Women Grow, and I'm a part of the Arizona Cannabis Chamber. I will be available to answer your questions and direct you to the appropriate organizations and attorneys.
Can I say something real quickly? And Susan, you're absolutely right. Yeah, I partnered with somebody I didn't use Laura as an attorney. I should have used Laura and Ryan. I should have. And I cannot say that enough times, but he didn't get my soul. Okay. He got my license, but he didn't get my soul. And I think Sam and Ryan and all you guys on the call can be testify to that. Let me, a little bit about social equity. I was just texting with some of the people at DHS. They said, be patient. It looks like end of Q2, beginning of Q3, the rules will be drafted, the applications will start. But what we did over at META was, because everybody's excited about this, it's the 26 jewels created for new opportunities for those who are already aren't in the market. So we created a 16-week module every Thursday. We've already done 2 Thursdays, and we're storing them online to teach all those who might be interested about social equity or who believe they might qualify for social equity about how the Arizona industry works. What's a dispensary, what's a cultivation, et cetera. Not about what is social equity and not about the rules. We're going to teach those at the end. And we have the former Department of Health Services Director, Will Humble, who created the medical marijuana program, as one of the teachers come June or July about how the process works once it's written by DHS. So I would encourage anyone who knows any social equity applicants anywhere in the world or just wants to learn about the Arizona cannabis industry. We have mentors and role models like Ryan, like Laura, Susan. I know you're going to be on that as well. And Sam, we have 60 to 80 individuals lined up over a 16-week period to teach for free. www.mita-az.org. Come sign up, check out and learn about Arizona. And we're going to be giving weekly updates if there's anything new on social equity. We already have 700 people signed up that believe they're social equity eligible. So we have their data, and we're going to be sharing it with those people, our partners who want to teach them more information. That's what it's about. And I think that this is a great model that can be used in other states, regardless of whether you're at the medicinal stage, the adult use stage, or no licensing stage at all. Social equity applicants don't just need to know about what social equity is, about how the process works, but they need to be taught about the industry for free. And I thank you, Sam and Laura and Susan and Ryan, for stepping up and helping us do this project. So that's my 2 bits.
So it's important, although we do have some time until DHS develops the rules. I mean, there's no time like the present for you to begin, familiarizing yourself with the enabling legislation, which is Proposition 207. You'll see that the guidance provided to DHS regarding social equity is pretty Spartan. It basically just says you're going to give these 26 licenses to people from communities that have been impacted by the prohibition of marijuana. So it's pretty flexible in how DHS will develop those rules. But at the same time, DHS has been developing medical marijuana rules for 10 years now. And, generally speaking, they're not going to completely reinvent something if they don't have to. So it would be worth your time to go through the existing medical marijuana rules and the existing Department of Health Services rules to see how they approach things. And you might start to see some patterns emerge. I really don't know this for a fact, but I would guess that the lottery process they used in the medical marijuana, that may make some sort of appearance in the social equity realm. They may set up gating factors to make sure you qualify for social equity, but then leave the actual selection of the license to the lottery. I don't know that for a fact, but it would surprise me if they didn't do that, because they successfully have used it in the past. I know that they're open-minded as well, and they like input. So make sure you get involved in the rulemaking process and you let them know if you have experience on what has worked in other areas. Give them that advice, and they just might take it.
I don't want to share this publicly, but Laura, they may or may not be contracting with a law firm to help get this done. So just keep that between us.
Thanks so much for everyone's insights here. I do want to get to our third question as well, but any final thoughts about the social equity piece? Okay, well then let's bring on Alfredo Barreto Jr. To talk about the future of or future predictions for the Arizona market. So Alfredo, let's bring you online to answer your question, please.
Is this the Alfredo?
Hi, Lewis. Thank you. Alfredo Barreto with Wood Warren and Company. We're a boutique investment banking group in the San Francisco Bay Area. And we advise companies across the food, beverage, and agriculture sectors, and very actively involved in helping companies either seek capital or strategic partners. And I would like to know from the panel what your estimate is of the current market size, both medicinal and recreational or rec, and where you see the growth across both sectors, and what you think the relative size of the market will be over the course of the next 3 or 4 years.
I'll take a stab at that. And thank you so much for the question, Alfredo. And I think that obviously quite a few other folks on the panel can offer some more hands-on experience to see what they're seeing happen through their doors. But kind of from a global perspective, I want to answer your question in a couple of ways. One, what you may have noticed in kind of seeing Arizona's program develop over the course of the last decade is that we have a laser focus here on the protections provided to the patients. So we are one of the best states to be a medical marijuana patient from an employment perspective, from a child custody perspective, from a variety of those things. And that reality has also proven it difficult for our regulators to share a lot of the financial and sales and revenue data that some of us are familiar with in other markets, right? We don't do something like Florida where we're publishing weekly sales by operator, right? That's not something that we did in that medical appreciation. I think that some of those things may change as we head into a more adult use recreational space. I've been talking to the Department of Revenue much more in the last 3 and 4 weeks than I have, ever previous to that. So I think a lot of those opportunities are going to be able to provide a much better line of sight into that data. What I will say though is that last year we sold about 106 tons of product, which just for fun socializing of that math, that's the about the weight of a fully equipped space shuttle heading into space, which is important because Senator Mark Kelly is going to be an important voice in carrying forward some of the federal legislation issues. So I wanted to highlight that. So just in case he or anybody connected to his office is listening, there's a free talking point for you. But with that, you can kind of just layer over what that average ounce is on a blended average and whatnot. And I'll look to Ryan and others to offer what they're seeing there. But differently than some other markets, you're looking at about maybe $20 to $30 an eighth right now out the door for kind of that regular middle of the pack price. And one of the other pieces that I'll share too, just about the data, is we had a very rapidly expanding patient count but before the election, but also since the election as well. And I think because of those employment and child custody and other protections that the medical program exists, I don't think that we're going to see the drop off that some other markets might have experienced in their kind of erosion of medical participation. So I think that will still be an important part, at least for the foreseeable future here in Arizona. That being said, we're moving from a total addressable market from 300,000 qualified patients to well over 5.5 million Arizonans that are aged 21 and over. And those are just residents. We were chatting a little bit in the prep for this call that we're in the midst right now of the Phoenix Open, which some folks bill as the greatest show on grass. Up until this year, you couldn't have grass with you at that event. And now you can stop by one of Ryan's doors just around the corner from where that golf course is and take some new adult use cannabis with you to the Open. Obviously in the pandemic, attendance is much limited, right? But I think that, just kind of globally to just even more complicate my answer to you, Alfredo, what I'll say is that we have a very significant population base here that's excited about this. 2 million Arizonans voted yes on Prop 207. In addition, we are, a tourist hotspot. We are also a snowbird hotspot. So a lot of the folks that, are here just for a specific event, whether it's the Open or, we are regularly hosting the Final Four and the Super Bowl and things like that. We also have individuals that essentially live here for 5 to 6 months out of the year. And while they're not captured in our residency count, they're absolutely going to be captured in an adult use marketplace. So I think the future is extremely bright for opening up the doors beyond the total addressable market of the qualified patients. But I also think that program will remain strong as well.
Yeah, just to follow on that, I mean, I think that Sam might have mentioned, we're currently right around $1 billion market here just on medical. I think we expect that to double pretty much right off the bat and at least triple over the long term. But I don't think anybody really knows what the total addressable market is. I mean, up until now, lots of folks were afraid of marijuana. They were afraid to go in a marijuana store. We have a whole new set of consumers that we can reach, and we need to find out what products they like, what products will work for them, how to market to them, how to sell to them. We have a lot of evolving to do on the provider side to make sure that we're making what these customers want and being able to reach them and not scaring them away when they come in and they buy a 100 milligram brownie and they never come back. So I think we've got a unique opportunity here to reach those folks. Arizona has a lot of snowbirds, a lot of elderly folks, a lot of tourists. They may come here to Arizona to try marijuana for the first time. So hopefully we can turn them into lifelong customers.
I do want to comment this for you, Alfredo, since you asked about retail cultivation, infusion, and different aspects. Since, again, I'm the only one of the few independent operator license holder that's left in the market, I have only 2 dispensaries. But even our own smaller cultivation sites cannot supply our own dispensaries. Of course, we purchase from other licensed cultivation sites. But it is just my opinion. I think for a while, cultivation sites and wholesale market is going to be very active because retail fronts are moving so much volume, and although the retail license holder that have vertically integrated licenses like myself, I personally have more licenses than all the cultivation sites are developed. With the dual licenses now, potentially I can have 2 additional offsite. But again, simply due to the time and energy and resources, retailers are not focusing on expanding their cultivation sites. So it is my projection that at least for those independent operating dispensaries that have capped out with their existing kitchens and labs and cultivation sites, if there is a third party cultivation sites that's actually willing to supply inventory to the independent license dispensaries, I think that could be the strategy to enter into the market. But again, you would have to work with the license holder to figure out that piece. And earlier, Ryan did mention, but your medical marijuana cultivation site actually can sell to both adult use cannabis dispensaries and also to existing dual license dispensaries. And there's no specific distinction, in my opinion, whether it's an adult use cultivation site versus a medical. It's just, all about employees dispensary agent card versus facilities agent card, what you're getting. But you are able to sell to both dispensaries, recreational and medicinal. So I think it's just a matter of securing the license for the cultivation and then having the relationship with the license holder. And then if that license holder that you're doing an agreement with allows you to sell to other dispensaries, that can be the wholesale distribution business that you can get involved with.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. Any final thoughts about future market predictions before we move on to our last question? That heard someone on mute, but okay. Well, thank you so much, everybody.
Yes, actually, Louis, just because there was a question that in the chat, I'll mention. So the the cultivation question. So it's a medically licensed or an adult use licensed cultivation. That product is dual designated, so it can move in either environment, but the actual cultivation is either licensed to your medical marijuana license or your marijuana establishment license, which is the adult use.
Yep.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Last question then. Let's bring Brian Spivey to ask this one. Brian, do we have you here? There we go.
Hi, everybody. Brian Spivey with Procure Solutions. We sell disinfection products for the cannabis market. So question for the group, how have the new microbial and pesticide testing regulations affected your operations? And how do you see that progressing with the newly passed recreational laws? Thank you.
So I'm happy to address that. I think for a lot of folks, they've been testing for a while now. The difference being that their labs now have to be certified by DHS, and the labs have to be go through ISO certification and things like that. Due to the pandemic, and I think the the complexity and the difficulties of these labs going through these certification processes, it's taken a lot longer for the labs to roll out than everybody anticipated. So that's caused a bit of a backlog. There's only a handful of labs here that are certified so far. Some of them are certified for some tests and not others. And it's a challenging time to get products onto the market in a quick time frame. Turnaround times for the labs are longer than they should be. But that being said, we're working through it. The labs are trying their best to make things move quickly. DHS understands some of these challenges and has worked with the industry to try to address them. Some of the unintended consequences from the original legislation, we're trying to rectify those in the current legislative session, thanks to the hard work of the Arizona Dispensary Association and Sam and Pele trying to make sure that the legislation matches up with the intent. So we're working through it, but it is definitely creating a slowdown and a backlog of products right now. It's creating some opportunity though as well. Certainly if you want to come in and start a lab, I think people would be ecstatic for you to come and make that investment and try to clear out some of that backlog. It's also creating opportunity for us that was thankfully prepared to transition into testing. We've seen our edible products increase while some others are having a difficulty getting through the process. But combined with the advent of rec, it's definitely creating a squeeze on the supply side.
Yeah, definitely. I'd add to that and just say that even a company like us who is prepared and we've been testing, we believe we're the first wholesale full panel tested concentrate to market as far as we know. It still created delays and issues for us on supply chain. You can be doing it for a year, but when something like that rolls out and the regulations weren't necessarily set when we started doing full panel, small things changed, and even our testing had to change a little to actually adhere to the new compliance standard for testing. So really it did create some wrinkles, but like Ryan said, it created a huge opportunity. Companies like us, guys who are ahead of it, and guys who can adapt quick enough, who are planning and who are meticulous about, hey, let's forecast what's going to be here tomorrow. Obviously, we need to worry about what we're doing today, but let's really plan ahead. They're weathering the storm a little bit better, I would say. But to me, it's just a huge opportunity. Obviously, if you're entering the market now, there's some catching up to do, but even like Susan touched on, there's going to be years now where I believe cultivation, wholesale product, and the manufacturers are going to be in a prime position, as are the dispensaries, because there's going to be lines out the door for miles for the most part. But to answer your question, it's created some hurdles, but at the same time, some huge opportunities. Guys like you on the hypochlorous acid and the disinfectant side of cultivation, for sure, I can see guys probably paying more attention to that and being a little bit more mindful about the pesticides they use and everything that they put into the cultivation. Because as an extractor, we find the horrible truth out when we extract the product and test it, what was really going on there with the initial cultivation principles and chemicals and what they were or weren't using. So it's going to be a learning curve, I'd say, but there is opportunity there for companies like Procure and for all the wholesalers and cultivators in the market. So it's going to be a fun ride.
Right. Any final thoughts about testing and the impact of these new regulations on operations?
I might just add too, and I'm very hopeful, and thank you, Ryan, for mentioning the association's efforts to try and work on this legislatively to fix it. But I just, to maybe tie in a conversation that we were having at the beginning around how Arizona has a vertically licensed contemplation, but not necessarily a mandate on vertical integration. That is one of the issues at play here with the testing rollout.
Guys, we're out of here soon. I think we're almost done.
In that the rules really contemplate only that eventual retailer dispensing or selling the product that they've manufactured from the flower that they've grown. So there really aren't some of those intermediary or R&D testing type things that are in the rules. So one of the things that we're working to do is actually give the department a lot more flexibility and discretion to roll out a program that really kind of addresses what the market has matured into. To give that great example that our friends, the sponsors at the manufacturers were trying to deal with, right, is the department believes that they are actually the ones dispensing the product that they're making from a regulatory and liability standpoint, right? So it's just kind of to pull back and build out a testing program that makes sense, requires some legislative action to give the department the discretion and flexibility they need.
Great point.
Great. Thanks so much, everybody. I think that's all the time we have for the questions. I want to thank all our panelists again for all of your wonderful insights. I've learned a thing or two, more than a thing or two, I think, and I'm sure we could spend more hours diving in. And I want to thank all the people who asked these questions as well, who represented the voices of everyone who are interested in similar topics. So again, thank you so much for your time and attention. You should now be noticing a poll on your screen. Please take a minute to fill that out. If you're interested in connecting with anyone that you heard from today or wanting to give us guidance on where our next town hall should be, we very much value your feedback. I mean, the whole reason why we explored Arizona today in the first place was because, it was voted on by you here in the audience listening in. But before we close out, I want to turn things over to Arcview CEO Kim Kovacs for a final word. So Kim, over to you.
Thank you so much, Louis. And wow, what an incredible program. Thank you all so much for being here with us today. I took two things away from this today. First of all, not too late. And there's a $15 million check out there with somebody's name on it. So make sure you connect with our panelists in the chat. Go ahead and put your information out there. As Louis said, also please complete this survey. It really does help us. In addition to our wonderful sponsor today, we also have created this new program called the Arcview Alliance. And the reason that we did this, we thought it was really important to align ourselves and really tackle this market, next markets, the entire cannabis space as a team, and to work into collaboration. And so I have two that I want to give a shout out real quick to as you're completing this. The first one is Alpha Root. And so they're a tech-enabled insurance brokerage, and they focus specifically on the cannabis sector, and their teams are truly veterans in the space. They've had a long-standing relationship, not just in the cannabis space, but also in agriculture, different kinds of insurance products, and they are certainly experts, and they've been helping our members really for the last year that we've been working with them, and so really appreciate them and really happy to have them as part of our alliance. A new member that we have is ProClinical, and they just joined us because we are looking at how are we bringing people crossover from one industry into another, and ProClinical is really just expert at executive search and staffing, especially for global cannabis companies. I look at life science, look at different things about building out your team. So they specialize in sort of that C-suite, the executive, and then also, as I said, global and medicinal. I was going to say municipal, medicinal. So please check out these two of our Arcview Alliance partners. And You can always check out as well, arcviewaccess.com. It's got our latest and greatest on our programs. You can see them here on the screen. Make sure you join us here tomorrow. I've got a fireside chat with Jean Sullivan after we hear from some incredible women who have participated in the study with NCIA. So thanks all so much, and we'll see you again next time.